Hi, Homeschool World. My name's Connie Merritt, and I'd like to welcome you to the Home Educators Workroom. Today in the workroom, we're going to talk about style. Before we go there, I just want to kind of make a couple of statements. Last video, discussions were had about the things that each student needed to learn based on their grade level and equally what was required for graduation. And I want to make it abundantly clear that those are just guidelines. That's just a way for you to figure out where your son or daughter is. It does not mean that you are mandated by the state to follow those. You can mix it up and do it however you want to in your homeschool. The other thing that I want to say is my microphone, for some reason or another, keeps changing a little bit in terms of my vocal quality. If that's distracting to you, I am indeed sorry. I don't know when it's happening. It just sort of shows up in my recording after I listen to it. So please continue to listen. I hope that this recording will stay consistent. So, when it comes to curriculum configurations, you need to understand that they are all not created equal. Some are better than others. Some will fit your teaching style, but not your child's learning style. Some will fit your child's learning style and may not fit your teaching style. So you have to kind of think about the style of homeschool that you want to participate in. I'm going to refer to several notes that I've got here in front of me. This is a rather involved topic, and I want to make sure that I'm saying the things that you need to hear and keeping them kind of structured by each style of homeschooling. So you may not know until you start your style of homeschooling what's going to work and what's not going to work. So I encourage you to kind of study your child. Take a few moments to look back on maybe if they were in public school, what they have done, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, where maybe there's some deficits, where there's some things that they are really, on the other side of that coin, just really just knocking it through the roof and moving rather quickly at. Take a look at how they like to have information given to them. Are they a good listener? Would they rather hear you tell them, or would they rather see it in front of them? Would they rather have their hands on it? Do they like to move around when they're learning something new? All of these things are important in you deciding what you're going to choose in terms of your style of homeschooling. So the first one that I'd like to speak about is Charlotte Mason. And Charlotte Mason's style is one that's been around for quite a while. Charlotte Mason was a real person, and her style focuses on living books. These are books that basically explain maybe through history or through nature, lots of things that are real world based. So those living books are more considered than textbooks would be. So you wouldn't want to necessarily, in Charlotte Mason's style, purchase a bunch of textbooks that talk about certain topics, but rather pick literature that responds to those topics. The method sees the child as a whole person and capable of understanding what's going on around them in the world. They just need somebody to kind of explain it to them, or developing a book that shows what is happening in the real world. Charlotte Mason, if you want to get into the style and how it focuses on establishing positive habits. And those habits can look like making your bed, having time to sit down and help out around the house in some way. These habits of study and how you read and what you do, all positive habits that help to facilitate the Charlotte Mason style. Short lessons are a part of the Charlotte Mason style. And these lessons are most definitely something that would be appropriate for the age of the student. So you could do Charlotte Mason style through the different ages in your homeschool world. If you've only got one child, you can certainly make sure that you're focused on that one child's understanding and explaining the world around them. If you've got multiple children, you're going to have to explain them in a more age-appropriate manners. Dictation is a part of Charlotte Mason, and in that dictation, they often will use scripture. Now, if your home is a home that's based in your religious practices, you could craft that and move that to work more towards your religious beliefs, and the dictation can revolve around the scripture or the readings that you use in your religion. It helps in addition with the dictation, dealing with spelling and grammar so that they understand, they hear someone using proper grammar. They see how proper grammar and spelling is used in the real world. The other parts that are used are art and music and nature studies. Nature studies are a big part of Charlotte Mason learning, and basically showing the world around them and making it real for them. Helping them to realize that they're seen as a whole person, that they are not just a developing person, but that they have the ability to understand big topics. And you as the parent can instill that understanding through Charlotte Mason. Another form of homeschooling is referred to as relaxed or eclectic. And the eclectic homeschool style is not so much involved in schedule and not really involved in the idea of reaching certain markers in their education. Those markers are not important in the eclectic style as a strict form of eclectic. They can be computer-based or pre-packaged curriculum that the eclectic style or relaxed style learner uses. And that maybe even if they don't, as we discussed, purchasing a whole curriculum maybe is one style, but for the relaxed or eclectic style, you may not buy the full package. You might buy one, maybe two fully formed curriculum in the relaxed or eclectic style. You also may or may not focus on every topic every single day. It's just real relaxed, and you deal with it as it comes, whatever you feel that you need to do, and what kind of learning you want to do on any specific day. So not highly scheduled and not really focused on grade level, that kind of thing. Then we have one that some people consider that they look at and think you're doing nothing, but you're doing a lot. It's called unschooling. And unschooling has two ways of looking at it. Some people that come out of the public school, some folks say you need to unschool them for a while. And the way I define that is just saying that you're wringing out their sponge and making room for them to decide what they want to do in the course of their learning and their day. It is completely child-based, and meaning that they focus on an interest that they have, a topic that they are interested in. Let's say that your son or daughter is interested in engines. They decide what they're going to do with that. The whole idea being that every person wants to learn. Every person is curious. And so they're going to look into these things and learn based on their interests. And those interests will help focus things like the reading, and they're reading maybe some high-end stuff so that they're understanding grammar better. Maybe they're learning a little bit of STEM in the process of learning about how an engine works. They might be learning about history and where engines came into play in our history. And so a parent is more of a facilitator, maybe, your child being interested in engines, but not quite sure where to go find that information. You help facilitate books, videos, that kind of thing. But the child decides whether they want to watch or participate in those videos. Perhaps you find something that you think is really great, but the child decides it's just not suitable for them and they want to go in another direction with that particular interest. Courses can be available, although most unschooling homes don't wish to participate in courses or classes. But you as the facilitator find that maybe there's a really cool community class on engines, and you offer that opportunity to the child. In offering that opportunity, the child has the ability to say, yeah, I'll do that, or no, I'm not interested in that. So unschooling can be both a time of decompressing from your time in public school and opening the mind up, and it also is a style in and of itself where it is completely driven by the child, what they're going to learn. Another form of education, forgive me needing to move my papers, but another form of education is the Montessori form of education. And that Montessori form has multiple ages in the classroom. It's often defined as having basically sections of the room set up so that students can move from one thing to another in their own free time. It is not scheduled highly, meaning that at 8:41 you need to move from this activity base to another activity base. It's uninterrupted blocks of time that they get in there and they are focused on maybe building something with the station that they're in. And nobody says, ding, time up, need to move to the next station. It's uninterrupted. They move when they feel so compelled to move. It's also real world activities. So if your son or daughter wants to learn how to make a cake, they're going to be using a real kitchen as opposed to a play kitchen where they pretend to make a cake. The work centers that they have, these stations, they are kind of pre-selected in order to help impart something that the teacher is wanting to impart to the child. It's considered a holistic approach. It deals with all of what the child is and how they can learn. It also includes all of the senses. So taste, smell, sight, touch, taste, touch. I'm losing one. Hearing. So they are able to use all of their senses in the Montessori technique. And you want to understand that in order to call it a Montessori school, these teachers had to go through training. You can call yours a Montessori approach or a Montessori style using that kind of approach. And that might be a great one for students that are more active, students who really get focused and hyper-focused on something. It might work well for them that they don't want to move from what they're doing. And that's okay in Montessori. It's uninterrupted block. It's when they want to move to the next thing. Another style is called the Waldorf style of education. It's a lot like classical style in that it's got those 3 stages. And I have not exactly talked. Let me get those two together. You got Waldorf style of education. It's high in music, and it deals with 3 different styles of learning, and at different stages in the child's development. They don't, in the Waldorf style, use technology until a student is in high school. But you compare that to classical education. And, the 3 components come into play, and for both of them would end up being grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And classical style learning does not involve a lot of hands-on and videos, that kind of thing. It's more language-based in its approach, and the grammar component comes into play when a student is in elementary school. And it lays the foundation for everything else that they're going to be doing with logic and rhetoric. They're basically learning how to learn in the very beginning stages of classical education, and same with Waldorf education. Then when you get to logic, that happens around 5th or 6th grade, right around the transition into middle school, and the brain is developed in being able to understand the rules of logic. And so when you go in and start looking at that, they're thinking about reasoning and being analytical in their approach to their education. And then finally, the last part is the high school component of rhetoric. And rhetoric applies the rules of logic. And so you can see how one builds off the other. And that would be the component of Waldorf. But in classical education, you could end up in that form. Technology can certainly be applied in that. They may see videos, they may have hands-on things, but in Waldorf, they may have videos and hands-on things, but definitely music. music helps to trigger certain things in the mind that a non-music home might not get. So you know, if you're highly musical, you may want to consider the Waldorf education model. If you maybe are wanting to do less hands-on and less video, you may want to do the classical education model. Understand, Waldorf does not include technology until high school. I mean, that's very specific in their definition. And classical education, that might show up in there. There's also classical education has the memorization component to it. Lots of things that they are memorizing. So understanding that if your son or daughter is not really good at memorizing, classical education may not be the direction that you want to go. The Moore formula, which was developed by a couple that are considered the grandparents of home education. Their model makes it clear that they don't think that you should start any formal education before the age of 8, and that formal school does not start before that age. So if you couple Moore formula and look at it in terms of unschooling, maybe you're looking at unschooling up until the age of 8. So you're following your child's interests. It's more about play. It's not about sitting down and teaching them how to write. It's not about teaching them their numbers or anything. None of the formal education component where they are learning specific things comes into play until they're 8. The next form is called school at home. And school at home it's exactly what it sounds like. You have a desk, a table, everybody gathers around, and it is highly scheduled, just like school. You're going to do this at 8, you're going to do this at 9, and we're going to have an entire curriculum. Every single thing is going to be purchased, and we're going to go through every single bit of that and consume it. And it doesn't leave a lot of room for that flexibility, although within it you can schedule certain things, but it's about the schedule. And that full curriculum can be book-based, it can be computer-based, but it is a full curriculum that is purchased. So you have one company that's providing you your core courses, spelling, maybe even vocabulary within that. It just depends on what you decide on, but whatever it is, that curriculum is completely consumed in school at home in a schedule. Unit studies is considered another style where you have a topic that you are participating in. And in a lot of ways, it might be able to accommodate a homeschool that's got different ages in it. You pick a topic and the students research and use resources around them to learn more about that topic. And they use basically the standard subjects, math, science, English, and history to help explore the topic, the theme that they are choosing to do. And they may end up putting this unit study together in the form of a booklet where they've got pictures and things that they've written about the topic. They may, in some forms, put together videos that they are using as a project to show what they've learned about the topic or the theme that they're doing. Like I said, I think it really would work well for various age ranges, and it might be something that you could use not just as a style of studying, but perhaps even using it within the eclectic style, that it's something that you use occasionally to help teach a theme, that a topic. So let's say that you're doing a topic that's based on a specific scientist, let's say Einstein, and you want to use that within your eclectic style. I think unit studies can actually be a way of doing that within the eclectic style of education. So as I look through my list, I think I've covered them all, and I want you to really consider what you're doing. All of these may have some curriculum, books, websites, all of that you can use, and some may have specific things that they want you to purchase. So next video, we're going to talk about some of the ways that the home educator can participate in deciding what that curriculum is going to look like. I would encourage you to research these topics that I've discussed, and the topic being the style, that you start looking at the style of things that you want to do in your home. If you are a person who is all about the idea of grammar, logic, and rhetoric, and want to have that be the structure for your homeschool, research that and see what others have to say about it. Doesn't mean that you have to do it. Go, okay, this person said it was just a nightmare for their home. It may not be a nightmare for your home. Take a look at some of the unit studies that are out there. There's some examples that you can consider. Some people have even prepackaged unit studies that you can purchase. But look and see what works for you, what you think. If you notice that your son or daughter constantly, if you're pulling them from public school, constantly had problems with the idea of sitting still, school at home is not going to be your thing. That the expectation of sitting at a desk all day and doing this program, where it may work for you because you are highly organized and don't have a problem sitting and being focused that long, it may be a real problem for your son or daughter. So you need to consider what you're doing and what it's going to look like for everybody. Later on, I want to put together an idea of what our homeschool looked like. We were eclectic in a different sense for me. I didn't follow the no schedule kind of thing, but we had a really flexible schedule in the way that we had to do things. And so I can speak a little bit more knowledgeably to the eclectic or relaxed style. We certainly had structure. We certainly used some pre-purchased and packaged ideas, but I came up with my own curriculum for some of the things that we did. So I'll do a video and talk about that, and hopefully that will help somebody in their decision-making process. Please like, please subscribe, and please know that you can do this. It seems involved, but it takes some effort on your part on the front end to reap wonderful rewards in the process of doing this homeschool. And I wish you great success today in consuming all of this. And I will list these in my description so that you can see them and maybe, look them up and do a little research for yourself. I thank you for coming by, and I'll see you again in the next video.